we're going to get into our CCOH. I have B. Harrison Smith hanging out in the green, well, what I call a green room. He is a writer, director, and producer. You may know him from some of his directorial debuts like Camp Dread, Death House, and one of the newest films that came out in 2020 as The Special. B. Harrison also has a spooky background as he wrote the film The Fields, released in 2011, which I heard is based on real events that happened on his grandparents' farm in the fall of 1973. Let's go switch and bring him on, and let's say hello. Oh, there it goes, because it never opened up. My Coffee Chat of Horrors little thingy never opened, so we're here. Good morning. How are you, B. Harrison?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. Good morning. Yes, Monkey, issues is normal. Issues as regular. This is why I can't wait when we move over to YouTube.
Right, just so you know, I'm hearing like a delay.
Yes, Twitch is going to be a delay. Me and you are like on real time. So if you want to mute Twitch, you can easily mute it by or lowering it.
Okay, hang on. And hang on here.
Yep.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, me and you are going to be in real time. Unfortunately, with Twitch, it's got a slight delay, so they will hear us like 2 to 3 seconds behind.
Not a problem.
Ake OG, how are you doing this morning? Evil, enjoy your lurk. How are we, guys? I'm going to let, should I call you B. Harrison, Mr. Smith?
Harrison works just fine.
Harrison works fine? Perfect. I forgot to ask you this morning. But you can see how the way my morning's going. I messed up my coffee and
I've got mine here with my Godzilla mug, so I'm all good to go.
Right on. Yeah, I'm gonna let you take the floor. Tell us a little bit about you and yeah.
Sure. Well, first of all, I love your hair.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. So it's fantastic. My background, I think you did a really nice intro. Thank you very much. I wrote The Fields and produced The Fields that had Cloris Leachman and Reid. That was my first film. I did not direct. My directorial debut was Camp Dread with Eric Roberts and Danielle Harris and Felissa Rose, Felissa Rose is always a hoot. And I got a great story later, a great sleepaway camp story about her. Oh, and from there, I've gone on to do Zombie Killers, Elephant's Graveyard with Billy Zane, Dee Wallace, Felissa Rose, Misha Barton. Then we did Death House, which had the largest collection of horror icons to date, as far as I know. Somebody can correct me on that. But it was a lot of fun. They misnomered that. They called it the Expendables of horror, and I was never a fan of that,
really?
that name for it. Yeah, I never liked it because it kind of gives off the wrong impression.
Yes.
And then we'll get into that in a little bit. And then from there, I did The Special. And I did an action comedy called Garlic and Gunpowder with Judy Tenuta, Michael Madsen, Vivica Fox, which I think is a lot of fun. Dean McDermott. I had a lot of fun doing that one. And like I said, we just completed The Special, which just got released. I have a great monster movie that is in the queue coming from Lionsgate Grindstone called Where the Scary Things Are.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's just, we shot that right in the summer after the pandemic started. So it's kind of bottlenecked up with about, I think they said about 18 other films. So it's
wow.
kind of, they were hoping to get it out. The nice part is they were hoping to get it out by Halloween. And they want to hold it to give it a proper delivery because they're really proud of the film. It's a really good monster movie, and I'm very, very proud of it. And the kids that are in it are just phenomenal. We can talk about them in a little bit.
Sure.
And then I just finished, I produced, associate produced a horror anthology, a vampire horror anthology coming from Lionsgate called The Nighttime World. And I'm in development on a couple projects right now, and that's serious development. That's not bullshit development, where it's just like, oh, I got something going. We actually have some financing in place, and I'm very excited about that. And then what else? I just wrapped producing a supernatural thriller with Damien Maffei and Hannah Fearman. It's called They Watch. and really, really excited about that as well too. And we can talk about that in a little bit as well. Doug Henderson, that was his directorial debut. I really liked the script. Doug and Matt, we'll talk about them, are partners of mine that helped me with, I couldn't have done it without them, with the special Where the Scary Things Are Nighttime World. They are phenomenal talents.
Right
and
on.
That brings us right up to date, I think. So I hope I got that concisely and didn't put any of your reviewers asleep.
Oh, none, not at all. That's awesome. Where the Scary
Tea
Things
break
Are.
is over.
I was just typing that all down so then I can also put it into my description when I throw this up on YouTube. But that's awesome. We need some monster movies. We haven't had any good monster movies in a while.
Monster movies. That's my favorite subgenre out of horror. I love monster movies.
Yeah, they're so fun. You don't see a lot of them being made anymore. And if you do, they're very independent.
We'll wait till that time comes for anybody that's listening that they want to know what it's about. But it hasn't. Usually with my stuff, there's an 80s vibe to it.
Yes, I noticed that.
But with this one, we wanted to kind of turn the tables on a bunch of 80s tropes and stereotypes.
Yes.
And, usually in the 80s, there was always that fun kind of thing where the nice kids find the monster, they find the alien, they find the freak, like in the Goonies, they find Sloth. And they're always the nice kids. But I wanted to posit the question, and that is, what if the assholes found the monster?
Right.
The future Columbine kids, what if they found the monster? And that's basically the premise of Where the Scary Things Are, and that is, who's really the monster? So.
Right. Ike, you're saying Twitch is having major issues? Yeah, see, it doesn't surprise me that Twitch is having issues, guys. I apologize on the behalf of the platform. This is why we're moving over to YouTube in December. Twitch is a good platform, but it's got some issues lately because they've been upgrading it. But Where the Scary Things Are sounds interesting. And I really like the aspect of Camp Dread. Where you brought on the not so good. There was really not really any good kid in it. There were just all of them had some type of trouble past, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the tropes in that one as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of tropes. I mean, that's what it was supposed to be. It was just supposed to be a tip of the hat to the old summer camp, Friday the 13th, sleepaway camp type slashers, and it was absolutely imperative that I got Felissa Rose for that because of Sleepaway Camp. And so with that one, yeah, you're right. There aren't a lot of, there are no good kids in it. But the whole point, without giving away the ending for anybody listening that has not seen it, the kids are just a product of something else. And it's kind of like in South Park. The kids really aren't the ones who are screwed up. I think that's about as much as I will divulge, because it's got a great ending.
It does. It's a great film. It's a great film.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed Camp Dread and Death House. I love Death House. I saw Death House on was it Amazon? It was one of the streaming services here, and I had to go find it to buy it. But yeah, you had a big stellar lineup. You had Tony Todd in Death House, Kane Hodder, Bill Moseley. Like you had like a star-studded. And how was it to work with all of that?
First of all, working with these horror legends, you would never know that they were legends because they were so modest and humble.
Right.
I have to say, and look, you're supposed to say this, right, to be nice, but I mean it. And that is, there wasn't a bad experience with anyone making Death House. The most pleasant, kind, giving, nice people I've ever worked with. I mean, they just all came in, they wanted to do a good job, and they just had a lot of fun. And I think that shows.
Yes.
Especially when you're working with so many of these legends, and as a kid you grew up watching them, and to share the same space with them and to consult with them. Like, I'll give you an example. When we got Sid Haig, Sid's health was not good, and that's no secret
No.
now. And we kept it very quiet at that time. And Sid came into the studio. We were in LA. We shot Death House both on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Oh, wow.
And Sid came in and he wasn't doing well. And he said, listen, I know I'm supposed to be standing and moving about, but he didn't say he wouldn't do it. But you could tell in his eyes, it was like, is there any way I don't have to? And so we worked it out that he's kind of in, I rewrote the scene that he's kind of in what would have been a Zodiac kind of like he was in a picnic situation. Like this couple was out having a picnic. He took their captain's chair and we did it through there. But the best part about it was I got to have lunch with Sid for 2 consecutive days. And for like 90 minutes each day, I just said, I don't want to bug you. I just want you to tell me everything. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, I don't want to gush about Rob Zombie. I want to hear about your almost 50 years in this industry, how you started, how you've seen it change. And it was great. I just wanted to learn. And I don't think I said 20 words to him in each of those days. I just wanted to listen to him because he was a wealth of knowledge. Right?
Definitely.
And he was so giving and so generous and so kind. And he told me so much. But then it expanded. We really clicked. And we went to the premiere of Death House together. Tony Todd came, Sid came, so many of them all came. And I remember I was sitting in a bar with Sid. And Sid said to me, he goes, do you have your audience cards? And I said, yeah. He goes, let me see one. So I gave him the index card that had the ratings and everything on it. And he looked at it and he said, okay, here's what you want. Because it had a scale of 0 being the worst, 10 being the best.
Right.
And he said, here's what you want. You want, obviously, your 10s, 9, 8s, and even 7s. That's what you want. You want a majority of those. He said, but you also want your 0s, 1s, and 2s. And I said, really? And he goes, what you don't want is a stack of 5s. And he said, because if you have a stack of 5s, it means your film made no impression whatsoever. He said, even, and I quote, even if they fucking hate it, you elicited a response and an emotion. He said, if you get a 5, it just means they shrugged and your movie made no reaction at all. And he said, that's what art is supposed to do. It is supposed to elicit a response. And I never forgot that. And, you know, and he just, again, I'm just so glad I had that time with him.
Yeah.
Because I also had that time with Gunnar Hansen, who incepted the whole project.
Mm-hmm.
It was all Gunnar.
Yep.
And at the time that I was meeting with Gunnar, I had no idea he was dying. And he never let on. He never said a word. He was this big, gentle giant. In an alternative universe, I've said this before, he would have been a terrific Santa Claus.
Oh, yes, he would have.
He would have. He would have been a wonderful Santa. And, but, you know, Gunnar did not want just slash and gore. He didn't want that. And he also, Gunnar was very, very emphatic. He was not worried about a theatrical release for Death House. He wanted this to be released on the fan circuit, on the convention circuit.
Yeah.
He wanted this to be a Valentine to his fans. That's what he really wanted out of Death House. Mm. And he didn't care if it got 20 screens or 3,600 screens. He didn't care about that. He wanted convention fans to see it. And, you know, we went through a lot with going back and forth on the script. And he was also not big on the Expendables of horror thing. And the reason why, so I don't know how some fans maybe listening have heard me in this kind of interview before, but the problem with calling it the Expendables of horror is you're giving off an impression that this is going to be a monster mashup, right? It's going to be Freddy versus Jason versus Candyman versus Leatherface. And a lot of people thought that, and that was not true. First of all, it took all that they could do just to get Freddy and Jason together. Okay. I mean, it took 14 scripts and almost 10 years to get these guys together. And both sides were in charge of the rights. They just couldn't make it work. And then we got what we did. Love or hate Freddy versus Jason, it wasn't my thing. And I didn't want Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. That's not what I wanted. And then, because I mean, in the Expendables movies, Bruce Willis is not John McClane. Okay, you know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger is not the Terminator. But it gave off that impression. And I remember this one guy on the night of the premiere, he tweeted something, I'm about to leave to go see Harrison Smith's Death House. And I have a feeling he's just ready to drop a surprise on us that it's going to be Freddy versus Jason and Pinhead and Candyman. And I just happened to catch it. And I tweeted back in the car, if you go into this movie tonight expecting that, and I quote, you are going to fucking hate this movie. I'm promising you, you will hate this movie. Well, guess what? He fucking hated that movie.
Yeah.
Because he didn't believe me. And that's the danger of this Expendables of horror thing. It was great to make it as a marketing hook and get people in like, oh, they're gathering all the names. That's cool. But it also had a residual effect of making people think it was something it wasn't. We were looking to start something new. The Tony Todd character, for example, bookends the movie. He opens and he closes the movie because we wanted to move. I have a sequel written to this place that Tony references in the film called The Farm.
Yeah.
And at the end, he has Gabrielle Stone in the car and he closes the door on her and he says he's taking her to the farm. Well, let me tell you, that sequel is far more brutal than the original Death House. And I'm just waiting for a green light one day. I mean, I know the film did well, and I'm excited to see if there'll ever be a sequel. But the sequel is written, and I'm really, really happy with it and very proud of it. But we wanted what I wanted was to create an 80s roller coaster ride through the Funhouse. And I wanted Death House to be that kind of movie that you've either had a couple beers or you smoked a joint or two, and it's 1988. And you're sitting in front of HBO at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're flicking through and you see this and you go, oh, I got to finish this shit. That's what I wanted.
That's what I did.
Right. That's what you want. You want to just be sitting there going, I got to fucking finish this. I don't know what this shit is, but I got to finish it. Right. That's what I wanted.
Well, that definitely happened.
Thank you. I'm sorry to rattle on so
much.
No,
you go for it. We love listening. We definitely love listening.
Death House was just, I wanted it to be a lot of fun. Like, I remember some reviewer said something like, oh, that elevator scene when they're going down the elevator, their skin would fly out their hands. I'm like, we gutted Kane Hodder and he stood up having been basically disemboweled. And you're going to call out the science on slinging down an elevator cable? Dude, just have fun with this. Just what are you getting into? And that's the problem of the internet. We now focus on this stupid bullshit minutia when we forgot how to just have some fucking fun watching a movie, right?
I agree.
Look, great white sharks don't have jowls. Okay, the original Bruce has jowls because the pneumatic hinges were there and they didn't know how to cover them. I'm okay with that. Sharks don't leap out and sink boats and air tanks don't explode. I don't care. Okay? I just want to have fun watching a movie. Why do we have to get into, they was going down the cable and they're shooting and they would never be able to do that. I'm like, get out of here. Go watch Titanic.
Exactly. I completely get you on that. I definitely get you on it. That's why I like horror movies. I just like to watch it. Half the stuff that gets done in them is not going to happen. Like, you gotta have fun with the horror movies. That's the whole point of them. They're fun. They're not based in reality. You're not gonna find someone like Jason Voorhees coming at you. I mean, maybe copycat, but you're not gonna have the same guy coming at you for 13 chapters of your life.
So let's stop there for a minute. You make a great point. All of you fans listening right now, could you imagine if we took actual science and applied it to, let's first go with Michael Myers. Dr. Loomis in the original 78 explained Michael Myers so perfectly, and that was he's evil. That's it.
That's
right?
it.
That's your blanket explanation, and you know what? That's all I need, right?
Yeah.
I'm just having fun with this. But could you imagine now if they made Halloween today? You're going to have that scene somewhere where a scientist is looking over his dead body, right? He's dead in a morgue, and somehow they've examined his cells going, for some reason that we don't understand, his cells are able to regenerate, which gives him the ability to resurrect. I don't care.
We don't want that.
I don't want to know when Dr. Loomis, I shot him 6 times. I don't care. Let him sit up. Let him sit up all he wants. I don't care. Okay? I'm having fun with this. My date is hanging on my arm. That's all that matters, right?
Yes.
So imagine now applying the midichlorian explanation from the prequels, right? The Force is some kind of predisposed genetic condition. Get out of here, all right? I don't want that bullshit. Imagine Jason. How does Jason get killed? And first of all, in Jason Lives, Part 6, how does lightning inexplicably reattach his head? I don't know. But you know what? I don't care.
Exactly.
Okay? I don't care. Just give me some fun. I want some blood. I want some boobs. I want the machete. And that's all I'm here for. I'm not here for science.
I completely agree with you. If I want science, I will watch, Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't need to have science in my horror. Just blood, guts, and ass. That's about it.
Just have some fun.
Exactly. And going back to Death House, that's how I found Death House originally. It was late at night, insomnia was kicking in, and I'm scrolling through my streaming services, and I seen this, and I seen Kane Hodder's face, and I'm like, I don't think I've seen this. I turn it on, and of course it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I am starting to get tired, but I'm into your story. I'm like, okay, I can't. I have to finish it out, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted that just to be, like I said, a roller coaster ride through the funhouse. And look, we didn't have $20 million, and that brings me to something too that I remember when we released the first trailer. You have these trailer reviewers.
Yes.
And I think trailer reviews are bullshit. Okay, it's like saying, what kind of winter do you think we're going to have? My response is always, ask me in March. Okay, then I'll be able to tell you what kind of winter we have. If you judged a movie solely on its trailer, nobody would have gone to see Star Wars, and nobody would have gone to see Jaws. Go back and look at those original trailers. They are horrendous. They are terrible, terrible trailers. But that was not indicative of the great quality of both motion pictures that forever changed motion picture history.
Oh, for sure. So
you had these guys, remember this one trailer review website that was like, they have their headset on and they do their camera in camera thing and they're watching the trailer and they're doing all that. And the guy's like, sure sign of a cheap movie when everything's dark. They didn't have the proper lights. Well, first of all, if you watch the movie, it all takes place in a subterranean facility where the lights go out. Yes. So there you go, number one. Oh, and it's very clear they didn't shoot it on a good camera. I don't know. I guess the Alexa Pro is shit. I don't know. I mean, it's one of the top cameras in the industry, but okay, Yeah. So, you get that kind of cynicism, which is what my podcast is about. Instead of just giving things a chance, like people ask me all the time on Twitter, hey, did you see the preview, the trailer for this? What do you think? My answer is, I'll make a judgment when I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I remember when I ran a movie theater as a manager, and maybe it was because I was stoned out of my gourd, but the trailer for Weekend at Bernie's had me dying. I was laughing like crazy. And then I sat down and actually watched the film where I was baked, and I'm watching the film baked, and I'm like, shit, we saw the best parts in that trailer. Like, the trailer was great at 90 seconds. The movie was not at 90 minutes.
Right.
And so, trailers are just deceiving. You need to see the actual movie to pass proper judgment. So this focus on minutia and silly, tiny things it has become a problem, and it's taken away our ability to look at things, I think, from 20,000 feet or from back and just go, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, right? That's all it is. Sometimes a movie is just a movie. Enjoy it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to analyze. You don't have to go into this and look for, oh, and the continuity in the back, the earring was really here. And then I noticed in another scene, it was up here. What?
Yeah.
Who cares?
There's a whole website dedicated to continuity in films. Like there's a whole, I don't understand. Maybe people like to see those kinds of things, but I don't really care.
John Cassavetes never cared about continuity. He was one of the greatest independent filmmakers of all time. And John Cassavetes was like, fuck continuity. Just tell the story, you know? But now we've become so focused that it's just a shame. I mean, like anybody listening right now, look, you can enjoy whatever you want. Now we have that too, right? You go on Twitter and somebody says, oh, I saw whatever. And some like Halloween Kills. Oh. I made it very clear. I made a podcast episode about it. I did not think Halloween Kills was all that great. That's okay. That's my opinion. But God bless anybody that enjoyed it. If you paid money and sat down in that theater and had a good time or watched it on pay-per-view and it brought you joy, who the fuck cares what anybody says? Right? If you enjoyed it, good for you. And I didn't ruin it for anybody. I said, look, here's my cinema piece, which is why I support what I do. But you don't have to agree with it. And most of all, I make it very clear. I have spoilers, all this stuff. Don't listen. And if you enjoyed it, that's okay. Like we forgot about that. Like, have you ever you've gone to an art museum, right?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Have you ever stood in front of a painting and go, I don't see why everybody got the hype and people jump all over you. How the fuck can you say that? That's you know what I mean? Like nobody does that. It's just like, but with movies, it's like everybody's so angry and they want to jump all over everything and attack to get that word. And I think it's displaced anger. I think we have a lot of anger for what's going on in society. And we're watching a world where, this 1%, whatever you want to call it, but they've kind of hijacked everything and people have lost their jobs and they, you know what I mean? And they're barely making it from paycheck to paycheck. And you're watching these bullshit Kardashians living the high life and, Reese Witherspoon selling her bullshit business for $900 million and then talking about how relatable she is when the kids are home during the pandemic. Oh, get the hell out of here. Right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
So people get angry and they just vent wherever they want to vent to. And I think with movies, it makes an easy target because then it becomes personal, I've noticed online. Like people start attacking people for liking something or not liking something, blocking people, entering into Twitter flame wars. And I don't understand why we're so nasty to each other. But anyway, sorry.
I completely agree with you. For instance, I like to review movies. I don't ever really totally trash a movie if I don't like it. I give opinions on why I don't like it, what I thought could be better. But again, that's my opinion. That's nobody else's. I'm not shoving it down anybody's throat. But I also like to talk to other people about films and to get their side. A lot of people are afraid to give their own opinion about something because they get gang mobbed by people who are just like, oh, you don't know horror. And they gatekeep, think, oh, you've never seen this. So, oh, you can't be a horror fan because you don't have this or you haven't seen that. And they argue with you.
I could respond back to some of them that, there is horror outside of Jason, Freddy, Hellraiser. Like there is a world outside of these movies. I mean, let's really call a spade here. The Halloween franchise is a little long in the tooth. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, technically, if you really want to go by detail, Michael Myers is heading for the senior care home. Okay. But, but we're doing this because it's a venerated series. And most of all, it's nostalgia, right? We now have a technological platform that allows us to revisit very important things that were important to us throughout our lives with very strong visual and audio impact. You can go back and look at that commercial that you remembered when you were 5. You can do all of these things. That nostalgia has become almost a fuel for these films. And, it brings out a lot of passion in people. So yeah, I've seen that, what you're talking about with, oh, you don't know horror. Some guy recently just gave I thought it was a very educated, simple opinion on Malignant, that while he felt it really wasn't James Wan's best and kind of a silly movie overall, he felt he liked it and it was entertaining, but not worth all the hype. Well, you should have seen the people piling on this guy.
I'm
And
sure.
one woman just wrote, it was just what you said. She wrote, oh, you must not know horror. What makes you think that? Just because he didn't agree with you? How do you know he doesn't know horror? By the way, he has a horror podcast. I'd say the guy knows horror.
He's a director. He's a producer. He loves horror. You can see all of the influences through the movies that he has watched all come together in Malignant. I enjoyed Malignant. It was a little disorganized and crazy in the beginning, but as the story went on, I thought it was a great original piece. I've seen it got a lot of shit on Twitter, but Twitter is not a real place. It's just a friggin' platform.
In my movie Where the Scary Things Are, one of the kids says a line which is perfect, and he just says, Ayla, it's the internet. Everybody shits on everything on the internet, right? That's it.
Exactly. And it's so true, because everybody does. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a food, it could be a commercial, it could be a TV, it could be a movie. Everyone's got a voice.
My attitude is, you get these people that focus and take their anger out on a movie, or somebody didn't like a movie or they liked a movie. But in the meantime, nobody has been brought to justice with the Epstein thing whatsoever. These people are flying it right in front of our faces, and no one's pissed about that. No one's worried about that, right? We have arguably under 30 people controlling 90% of the world's resources. No one's pissed about that.
Nobody.
That's okay. Right? In fact, you even have people that go online and support some of these people. Well, if Jeff Bezos doesn't want to pay taxes and there's a legal loophole for it, then more power. What?
Are you kidding me?
Why are you sticking up for this guy?
He won't
I gotta pay taxes. You gotta pay taxes. What excuse of, there's a legal loophole? Oh my God. But boy, don't say you didn't like Malignant.
I know.
Do that. That's gonna piss someone off.
Exactly. Oh, I definitely agree with you on that. Definitely. This social media has been good and bad. It's been good for connecting us and research, right? And then it's been bad because everybody has a voice, and not everybody should have a voice. Oh, my Lord. I'm really interested about this movie, The Fields, that you did. I just recently found out about it. I like to research my guests. I like to see what they've been doing, what they've done, where they came from. I know it sounds a little creepy, but I like to know who I'm talking with. And I was like, oh, this is about a real life events that happened. Can you tell us a little bit more about the events of The Fields? I think I might even have the trailer. But yeah, tell us more about that.
Sure. It's based on the true story of what happened to me as a boy on my grandparents' farm, and 1973. And basically, to this day, I don't know everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
They had a small little rental farmette, and it was like a little 2-story cottage kind of home. Had maybe, I think, like three bedrooms, and it was surrounded on all 3 sides by cornfields. And I'm not talking just like a couple rows of corn. We're talking like Iowa corn. Like,
wow.
It was deep. And my grandmother, the movie really is a Valentine to my grandmother and my grandfather, because I spent a lot of time with them. I had a very turbulent childhood. They were I always said they were a port in a storm, is what they were for me. And they were safe harbor. But my grandmother had the mouth of a truck driver and sailor. I mean, every other word out of her mouth was fuck. And, and Cloris's performance in that film is the closest I'm ever going to get to seeing my grandmother alive again. Because she doesn't just play my grandmother, she channels her. That is my grandmother, I swear. And when Cloris came to the role, she dyed and cut her hair to look exactly like my grandmother's. She studied video and audio. She looked at photos. She sat for 5 days with me and said, "Tell me everything about your grandmother that you can." And that's why this woman wins an Oscar, right? That's why she has an Oscar, record number of Emmys,
Yeah.
the whole thing, right? So anyway, my grandmother was very pragmatic and is the one that introduced me to the world of horror. I used to sit and watch horror movies with her.
Yeah.
Now you just froze, so I just want to make sure. Can you hear me?
I froze. Oh yeah, I hear you completely fine. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Twitch has that issue. But go ahead, keep going.
No, that's okay. So I would sit with her at night and watch Chiller Theater, and then in Saturday afternoons it was Creature Double Feature and Dr. Shock out of Philadelphia and all of that stuff. And by the time I'm 7 or 8 years old, I could tell you Karloff, Price, Laurie, Lugosi. I knew them all. And she was also literally like a living DVD commentary. She never left the house, but she knew shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know how she knew it. Like she would sit there, that guy, Boris Karloff, he ruined his back. He had these braces on his back and he had these lead weights in his fucking boots and it made him all stupid. Like she would just talk to me like that. And I learned all about these great, by the time I'm 8 years old, I'm talking horror in school. So obviously the school guidance counselors are a little worried, right?
Yes.
So in addition to that, she always watched the news. And she actually scared me more with the news than the horror movies. And she watched, she was fascinated with the Manson murders.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinated. Because at that point in time, Manson's death sentence, they were all commuted over to life in prison. And Helter Skelter was on its way. The book was out.
Oh.
And I was terrified that Charles Manson was coming for me. That's what I was worried about. And my grandmother would always tell me, "You be more afraid of the living than the dead." That's what she would tell me. And that stuff like Frankenstein and all that, that's all bullshit. That's all fake. Those are people in makeup and masks. And you don't worry about that. You worry about those crazy sons of bitches right there, she would say, like on the TV. They're the ones that'll get you.
Yep.
Right? And she used to tell me, like, don't go in the corn. If you go in the corn, Jesus Christ will never find you. The fucking crows will pick your eyes out and you'll be all dead and black and swollen. And because she tried to scare me to stay away from the corn.
Right.
And so in the movie, the directors, I did not direct the fields.
Right. It's based on your story.
Yeah, they interpreted my story where the fields focuses on the family. My family, that's extremely accurate. They took some liberties with the events that happened to our house, and that's okay. I didn't want a horror movie, but it has some horror elements. But there was a dairy farm back behind the cornfield. I'd say about 1.5 miles away. And there was a guy there. And in the movie, they called him Eugene. I can't remember his name. I don't even know if I knew his name in real life. But this guy had an unhealthy fascination for me. Now, I'm like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, no.
And he would find me wherever I was. My grandfather would take me. They called it the milk farm. And they would take me, and I'd like to go see the cows and feed the cows and stuff like that. And he would find me. He was a hand on the farm. And he would always come up to me and be like, "Hey, you like Godzilla?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I told you last week I like Godzilla. You know I like Godzilla." My grandfather would always find me. If I disappeared for too long, my grandfather came looking. And he used to call me Boo Boo. And he's like, "Come on, Boo Boo, let's go." Well, the one time we left, there were these girls outside. And to me, they seemed old, but they were probably 20, you know?
Yeah.
And they were kind of like the Manson girls. They didn't have their heads shaved or anything. They were hanging there. I don't know if they were with him or not.
Right.
But they were hanging there that day. And I walked by out of the store, and the one lady looked at me and said something like, "Hey, what's your name?" And my grandfather didn't let me answer. He just said, come on, get in the truck. And she pointed at him. And she went like, I was just saying hi to the kid, old man, is what she said. And that's when the shit started a couple days later. And I really emphasized to the directors, please include that point. It's really important to have that. It's almost like she marked us.
Right.
You know, or she marked him. Now, I have no way to correlate that they actually were part of this. And we have no way to prove 100% that it was this guy.
Right.
But I don't want to give away the ending.
Yep.
But after the events of the ending, it all stopped. It never happened again. So, I mean, you know, correlation is, you know, what is it? It's causality is not correlation. But it was interesting. And I always tell people it started with a stick. And I used to play in the backyard. They had a big weeping willow tree. And the branches would fall. And I used to pretend I was like Ultraman. And I was Goldar from the Space Giants or Godzilla. And I would fight like these sticks. And I would pretend they were Ghidorah or monsters, you know, kaiju. And I heard something in the corn one afternoon. And I thought it was a dog. And so I'm sorry if I'm looking this way, but you're over here on my screen.
It's all good.
So,
all good.
Okay. I don't want your audience to think I'm not talking to them either. And I walked to the edge of the corn. And of course, you got Nanny like Obi-Wan Kenobi in your head going, do not go in. Do not go in. But I stood on the edge of the corn and I yelled I thought it was a dog. And so I took a stick and I threw it into the corn. And it went back maybe 5, 6 rows, as far as a little kid at that time could throw it. And about 10 seconds later, that fucking stick came back.
Oh.
It flew up and it came down and it landed in the yard. I still didn't think it was somebody. So I went in and told my grandmother. I said, hey, there's a dog in the corn and it threw a stick at me. And of course, and I'm telling you, she talked to me she said, what the fuck are you talking about? Dogs don't throw fucking sticks. And then, so, you know, she thought it's just my imagination. And then maybe about 2 nights later, it started. And it was the end of summer, early fall. It was still warm, I remember. And I slept downstairs. In the movie, they have the little boy up on a second floor, but that wasn't the case. In real life, I was downstairs. And the window was open. And there was a screen in the window. And I heard this through the window. And it went, like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I went nuts.
I would too.
So my grandmother comes running in. She's got her cigarette in her mouth. Jesus Christ, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, there's somebody outside. There's a monster. And then I said it. I think it's Charles Manson. Because, you know, Manson got out of jail in California and came all the way across the country to find me in Easton, Pennsylvania. So anyway, my grandfather went outside. He didn't find anything. And then it just went on from there. A couple nights later, it got worse. Somebody came up and they raked their fingers on the screen and rattled the screen. And they would do this at like, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, that kind of thing. So it just kept going and going. And the movie chronicles it pretty well on that respect. And you know what? There is a scene in the film that I wasn't there the night they shot this. And there was this great scene in the film where the little boy comes out in the middle of the night to get 7-Up. My grandmother believed, I'm sure some of you had this kind of grandmother, believed that 7-Up cured everything, right?
Ginger ale.
If you're sick to your stomach, 7-Up. If you have the shits, 7-Up. You know, cancer, 7-Up. And I got this, and 7-Up sent us the actual bottles from like 1973. This was great.
Wow, that's
an
cool.
authentic bottle. Yeah, they sent it to us with their blessing. And I pull out this 7-Up bottle, and I remember, and they did it perfectly. The lighting, she had it was like a little fluorescent light, like over the stove. And they lit this thing perfectly. It was so accurate, that scene, that it was like watching a memory. And I
Wow.
remember the one director said to me, they were watching me in the screening room, and they said my mouth was just open because I never saw it, shot. And the first time I saw the results was the first screening, the preview. And it was like living it all over again. That's how accurately they shot it.
Yeah.
And what happens at the door. I don't want to give it away for anybody that didn't see it. What I can say is Cloris Leachman gave one hell of a performance. That's my grandmother.
Yeah.
That is my grandmother.
I like Leachman.
Oh, she was wonderful.
She definitely was.
I loved working with her. The crew loved her. She was just a blast to work with. One night, I took her to dinner down at one of the local restaurants, and she got up in the restaurant, went over. Most people don't know this. She is a classically trained pianist. She can play like in concert. She could have gone pro, and she never did. But she sat down at this piano and started taking requests. She didn't need music sheets. She just played. And she entertained that whole restaurant. People came over, took pictures with her. Somebody said, would you hold my baby and take a photo? She did. And she just said, she had such a good life. Like, she was telling me stories about Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando and Jack Nicholson. I mean, she knew them all,
Yes.
And most of all, just a wonderfully generous person. The last day, I'll give you this. The last day on set, she said, no fucking crying. I don't want anybody crying. I don't do that bullshit. I'm leaving. You keep filming the movie. We'll all get together when it's done. However, she gets in the car. Her driver comes, picks her up. She's going down the farm driveway. The car stops at the end of the driveway. The window goes down. Her arm comes out, and she does that. And then she drives on.
Yeah, she sounds like my grandmother. And Cloris, yeah, she was a great actress on every variety. I really loved her with Broken Lizard because she worked with them on Beer Fest.
Beer Fest, yep. She was my grandmother's favorite. The real Gladys loved her as Phyllis on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yes, she was.
So it was so great. And Cloris Leachman was my first choice. And I didn't think we'd get her because she was doing, I think, a revival on Broadway, or they were talking about bringing her back to do a revival of, or a musical of Young Frankenstein. And they wanted her to be Frau Blucher in Young Frankenstein.
I love Young Frankenstein.
And I don't know if I can't remember. I don't know if it materialized or not, but I thought, she's going to be on Broadway. We'll never get her. And then all of a sudden one day her agent called me and said, she loves this script. She wants to do it. What do we got to do? And then we got her.
That's great. Yeah, she was awesome in Young Frankenstein. May she rest in peace. But yes, it was a sad day when I read that tweet that she passed away.
You know what? Don't be sad. That woman.
Oh, she had a wonderful life.
She lived for 10 people. She had no regrets, man. And she even said that. She said she was 83 when she shot The Fields. And she said to me, she goes, I don't ever want to quit this. I don't want to go right now. I'm having too much fucking fun. Right. That's what she said. Like, there was no regret when she died. Like, I feel that she really represented sucking the marrow out of life. I really did.
Yes, I never got a chance to meet her, but I always watched her on the screen, and just listening to her talk, whether it was in an interview or just watching her on the screen. But yeah, she definitely reminds me of my grandmother, because my grandmother, same thing, and my grandmother got me into horror as well. She helped raise me, so I definitely can relate to those things when it comes to grandparents. And ginger ale was my grandma's thing. Ginger ale cured everything. It didn't matter what it was. It's ginger ale. Oh, you've got the flu, ginger ale.
You got the flu, ginger ale.
Yes. So I definitely get to with that 7-Up stuff.
Yeah, and one last quick thing on The Fields. Tara Reid was wonderful to work with.
Yeah.
And I'm a staunch defender of Tara Reid, simply because not only was she very generous to the cast and crew, she's a fantastic actress.
Oh, yeah.
And she helped save a dog on the set as well, too. And she doesn't get the credit she deserves. I've always felt, I have actually a podcast episode dedicated to this, that I call it the Assassination of Tara Reid, where I personally believe that media for the longest time, like they did to Britney Spears,
Oh
just
God, yes.
kind of piled on her just to destroy her.
Yes, I
And
agree.
destroy her for our entertainment. And that's terrible. So
Yeah.
she didn't deserve any of that.
And I agree with you. There's this thing nowadays. Now you don't have. It's not just the paparazzi you've got to worry about now. You've now got YouTubers that made a career out of bashing people and their lives, whether you thought it was a good thing or not. Not everybody deserves to be bashed and berated publicly. Like there's so many people
Right.
that are made careers on bringing down others, and I find it very disgusting that you have built a career, especially on YouTube, influencing people and talking how trashy this person is or what a horrible person and what they deserve and so forth and so on. Tara Reid, Britney Spears, there's tons
Right.
and tons of people in the public eye that now have people that are on YouTube that aren't journalists. They're not nothing. They're just somebody who got on and started berating and bashing other people of the internet in the public eye. I don't like that kind of stuff. You don't like somebody, you don't like somebody, but you don't honestly know them enough to even say anything about them.
Yeah,
So shut the fuck
that's
up.
the thing. You don't even know them to like them or dislike
Exactly.
them. So you just know what's published, and you make a conjecture based on that, and that's really just, it's silly is what it is. It's very middle school. That's what it reminds me of. And look, Tara came up at that time. She really hit her fame just as the internet was really gearing up.
Yeah.
And the same for Britney Spears as well too. And the internet has allowed people to vicariously live through other people, and kind of like, again, I don't understand why we give such importance to silly celebrities. There's a difference between a star and a celebrity, and the internet has now allowed everybody to be a celebrity, right? Everybody's a celebrity now, and that's a shame, because now you can weigh in on things that really you don't have any business knowing, and you can say this through being anonymous online, and
Yep.
and it's a terrible thing. It really is. And I think that's the problem. Social media is not very social, and it's allowed us to be even nastier to one another, and that's horrible. The
Yes.
world is already a small place as it is. The pandemic has shown how quickly something can rage across the planet and affect every single person on it. We don't need to take this technology and kind of use it as a club on a baby seal. That's how I feel.
Mob mentality.
Yeah,
I mean,
mob mentality.
and hive mind. It's really disgusting, and that's why I try not to put too much into Twitter, because Twitter literally hive mind mentality. Someone doesn't like your opinion, that's it. We got to cancel them. It goes against my narrative, my agenda. My feelings are more important, so we've got to cancel you. I didn't like what you look like,
Right.
so.
Yep, the plurality of the internet is, pluralism is a dangerous thing overall.
Yep. Yep, that's why I don't put too much stock into Twitter, because Twitter, it's really not a real place. It's on the internet.
I've been lucky. I've really found a lot of fun and nice people on
Yes.
Twitter, and I love interacting with them. We have a lot of fun. I'll tell you, I got to just do a quick shout out to this
Go for
one,
it.
is the guy who plays Crazy Ralph.
Yes.
I mean, he's become a bit of a Twitter sensation.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
He's really good. Everything is, you gotta be shitting me. Like, everything is that.
Yeah.
And he makes me laugh. He's a lot of fun.
Oh, he is. And there's really good people on Twitter.
Yeah.
I stay away.
Nice.
Yeah, I stay away from all that other crap. But I'm really within the film Twitter. I don't know if you know the Mutant Fam, which is a part of the Mutant Fam, which is based on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. The horror community. The horror community is pretty great. I don't have any issues with that at all. In the
Can I
streaming
make
industry.
a verbal plea to the Mutant family?
Yes,
and
go for
Joe
it.
Bob. Joe Bob is a fan of my Camp Dread.
Love Joe Bob.
And I know Joe Bob. We've met. We're not. I can't say we're tight. Joe Bob and I, we hang out.
Right.
But Darcy, Joe Bob, Felissa, put the special on the last drive-in. It is the perfect venue for the special. There's my plea.
Nice. Well, we're going to have to tweet that out as well. Joe Bob does look at his Twitter. He does respond to Twitter. And that's what's really awesome for people who are in the industry. He is really great. I heard a little rumor that he's coming to a horror con near me. So I fingers crossed, because he's one I have yet to meet, and he's one of my idols that helped me learn about horror back in the 90s with Monster Vision.
Yeah, he's what I feel is he's just extremely important to the genre, because we don't have a lot of that anymore. And I mean, we can talk about that in a little bit if you like. That's what my book is about. We're losing a certain cultural identity that used to bring us together. And that's the problem that I think you and I have been discussing, is that for all that social media can do, sadly, it seems to divide us even more. And people like Joe Bob or, Elvira, they bring people together. And I think that's really important, because they bring out far more than, oh, it's a movie. They bring stuff, to us that is more than just content. That's, I think, what I'm trying to get at here. It's more than just content. It's about what unites us as people, enjoyment, love for something, and that there is nothing like, and we'll talk about it when you want to, about this book that I have coming, but
talk about it now if you like.
Well, I always feel that, man, and some of you, anybody listening, please, chime in on this, that there is something so cool about a theatrical experience, and especially in horror. To hear an audience scream all in unison, and that thing that happened on the screen scared us all. It binds us. It brings us together. 250 strangers, whatever number in a theater, we're all brought together. And that's really great. It reminds us that we're all human, that we're all together in this, truly all together in this, instead of Gal Gadot singing Imagine, or Ellen DeGeneres saying, being on lockdown is like being, on, house arrest, with her swimming pool and, 20-bedroom mansion. Yeah, it's a real bitch.
Of course it is. For her it is, yeah.
But to be in that theater, and I remember Jaws was the first movie. I was 8 years old when I saw Jaws. And I remember it was the first movie I ever saw where the audience stood up and applauded and cheered and whistled at the end. And that made such an impression on me as a little boy that when I got in the car, I told my mother, I want to make movies one day. And not because I want to make movies about a shark jumping out of the water. I wanted people to yell and scream and laugh. I wanted to do that to people.
Right.
That's what I wanted. And since then, I got to tell you, seeing Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, in a theater, I was an usher. And when that opened on April 13th, 1984, the theater was packed for the first couple weekends, sellout shows. And I'm telling you, you could hear them screaming out in the mall. And it was great to stand in the back of that theater, especially in that climax, when Corey Feldman's going at Jason and Tom Savini's effects are dominating that screen. And to hear that audience shrieking and screaming and people, that is part of the experience of horror. That's the fun part. Now, you can watch it on TV. That's great. You can watch it on video cassette, DVD, all the things that come, and that's fun. But you don't get the same thing as watching it in the theater.
No.
And that's what my book is about. My book is about memories that people have of seeing these things theatrically or with a group. And the memories, because here's what it is. When I go to horror conventions, and the nice part about me being behind the camera is people don't really recognize me, and that's fine. So I can stand by Danielle Harris's table or Kane Hodder or Robert Englund, and I can just listen to people. And I'm telling you, almost every single person says the same thing. And that is, I was 12, I was 14, I was 8. And I remember the first time seeing A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. And it's about the memory that they have, and that sometimes they brought their children, and they want to share that memory. And it's important to them to tell their idol, you gave me this. It was more than just, oh, it was bloody and I loved it and it was awesome. It's about, I was in a drive-in and you scared me and I couldn't sleep for days, but that's when I knew I loved horror. And we're losing that.
We are losing it.
This is something that is going away, and it should not go away.
I agree.
Because it makes us human. You know, it brings us together. When people go, oh, dude, I know. I remember when they reissued Jaws, and I saw it in a drive-in. And I'm sitting on a car, on a station wagon, a 1978 Chrysler Imperial, whatever it was. I'm sitting on this thing, and the sun has gone down. And suddenly, you know, when they turned on the projector, because that big white screen suddenly flickers, right? You know it. And people are all applauding. But it was when the previews were over and you saw the Universal logo, and all around me, like 100 cars around me, the headlights are flashing, the horns are blaring, and then you hear that, dun-dun, right? And that's it. That's an experience.
That is an experience. Theater is an experience. And I really do miss how William Castle back in the day would use his embargo to scare the shit out of theaters. They have gimmicks where the movie A Bucket of Blood, if in their little gimmick thing on the newspaper ad, it said, if you bring to admission a bucket of blood, your admission is free into the theater. Or where he would use on the movie The Tingler, where he'd use a puppet and the buzzing underneath the seat and on the floor of the moviegoers on their feet.
I dedicate a whole chapter in my book to William Castle.
Oh, I love it. Okay, what's the name of this book? Because I'm going to have to buy it.
It's going to be called This Time It's Personal. And then it goes into I don't know, they're going to change the subtitle, I think, but it's going to be called This Time It's Personal. And it's going to be published. And I can say this is a little bonus for anybody watching or listening. It's going to be published next fall, right around Halloween, a little earlier, along with the official compendium and official story of the entire pre-production, production, and release of Halloween 3 with exclusive behind-the-scenes photos, and it entirely written by director and writer Tommy Lee Wallace.
I seen your tweet. I got so fucking excited.
Yeah, and this is the official word coming from the guy who made the movie, and I'm just helping him come along. I'm working with Tommy because Tommy is my Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I love Tommy.
Tommy and I have been friends for 20 years, and it's a fascinating story. It's going to be like a great big coffee table book, chock full of photos, memorabilia, and that's why I put on Twitter, if anybody out there was running a movie theater at the time and you have some lobby cards, because Tommy has a lot of stuff. But remember, there weren't a lot of photos all the time. People didn't have cell phones.
Exactly.
But he does have the official set photographer, and she's going to contribute a lot of stuff to the book as well, too. But a lot of unseen photos, stuff that's never been seen before. But I also want to include all of you out there, because I think that's what horror is. If I'm going to talk about it, brings us together, well, let's reach out to the people that saw it. I want to hear from people that saw it in the theater, people's reaction around them, their reaction. Some of you who hated it now love it or loved it from the start. I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
And I want to contribute that to the book. Just these little sidebars of somebody saying, I remember I was there opening weekend. People walked out. When I was on a date, and I remember people out in the lobby yelling at the manager, what the fuck is this? Where is Michael Myers? This is bullshit. Like the manager had anything to do with it.
Right?
Right? All this poor guy is going, I don't know. I didn't see the movie. I remember him saying, I didn't see it. Well, you should have. Well, what is he going to do?
Exactly. Exactly.
But that's what the book is about. The book is about growing up with these memories, what the genre has given us, and the excitement, the thrills. And I do dedicate a whole section just on 1985's Fright Night because
Oh,
Fright Night was more than just a horror movie for me. Fright Night was a eulogy.
Yes.
It was a goodbye to a time in horror and in film that was dying at that time. You know, Peter Vincent is a relic in that film because cable and home video were displacing all of that. And God bless Elvira. I mean, Cassandra has really done a lot to keep that element alive.
Yes, she did.
That's her importance. It's more than, you know, her looking, you know, like all dolled up. And I'm glad she does all that.
Yeah.
But she is so vital and so important to the heart of the genre. And God bless people like her that have kept this alive and kept that fun and that spirit alive. And I've been in the same room with her.
She's an awesome person.
I never want to bother her, but I always just wanted to go up to her. And if she's listening now or whatever, I just always wanted to say thank you for all you've done for this genre. Thank you for keeping the flames still lit, because it's going away. And I find Fright Night a very maudlin and sad. I feel sad after I'm done watching Fright Night. I love it, but it makes me sad.
I agree. And it is. We do have, it is dying. Even now it's dying. The pandemic has really put another nail in the coffin. You have more people that are willing to stay home. I mean, I'm guilty for that as well, of staying home and wanting to watch it at home. But also, I still want to go to the movie theater. Here in where I live, we're still very restricted. So movie theater goings is not an actual thing yet. And I'm hoping one day it changes, because I used to love going to the theater, taking my spawns to the theater, seeing horror movies opening night, letting her experience that. Her first opening was 2018 Halloween. I didn't care for the movie, but I wanted to take her to see her first horror opening, just to get that experience of an opening night, how jam-packed it is, the energy, the people in the theater itself. Like, so she has that experience, and you're not getting that anymore. And it's, again, it is slowly dying. Everything is coming to a streaming service near you. Look at Peacock with Halloween, right?
Right. And I think while we're on this, for everybody listening, this pandemic has also influenced and accentuated the political divisions between us, where I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't buy into conspiracies. I think some conspiracies do exist and things like that. I mean, Abraham Lincoln was killed by a conspiracy, etc. Okay. However, what I'm saying is, I do believe there is an element in society, I don't know who they are, but there is an element that deliberately pits us against each other. Because if we're all busy fighting over each other and fighting over masks and liberal and conservative and gay and straight and all of this, then we're not focusing on the fuckers that are really getting away with what's going on. Because as long as we're fighting among each other, that's what they want. You keep squabbling over mask mandates or whatever. Let's cancel each other. Let's all turn on each other, whatever it may be, wherever you stand. You guys keep fighting, because while you do, it's pay no mind to that man behind the curtain. It's the magician.
The Wizard of Oz.
You watch the trick over here, okay? But we're fucking you over here. The trick is actually, the actual sleight of hand is on the left. But you keep watching my right and the beautiful assistant, because the smoke and mirrors are happening on the other side. And I really do believe that is happening. Yep. You know what? It's like John Carpenter had it right with They Live. I'm not saying aliens are doing it, but boy, was that movie ahead of its time.
Definitely ahead of its time. I swear to God, he's psychic. He's a prophet, something. He knew something back then, because They Live. And I'm not saying aliens either, but it's take out the aliens, and it's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Right? Put your sunglasses on, everybody.
Exactly. Stop fighting amongst each other. Who cares if you wear a mask or not? As long as you're taking care of yourself and the steps that do it, who cares? Take care of yourself. Listen to each other, because we're at each other's throats, right? All the time. We are.
And you know, this nonsense of we're all in this together. Are we really? Were we really? I mean, the way you look at it, it started politicized from the very beginning. There were people out there that genuinely needed help. They needed to know where to go for testing. They needed to know what to do. And most of all, we had a government. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, the fucking government dropped the ball on this across the board. And that goes from the Congress all the way to the president. We got conflicting information. We didn't get proper scientific information. We got things all over the place where people in the end were going, I don't know, I guess I'll fill in the blanks and make up my own shit.
Yeah.
I guess I'll make up my own facts then, because we're getting this, then we're getting that, and then we're getting this, and you're supposed to do this, but don't do that. And everybody's just going, I just want to know what's happening. Yeah. Can somebody just tell us from an authoritative source with no bullshit, just give it to us straight without politics, and I know what I sound like here, and I know people tuned in for horror, not to hear a diatribe.
Oh, no.
But it's just, I look at things and I just see, like you said, the pandemic put another nail in the coffin of the movie-going experience. Yeah. And especially with horror. Because horror allows us to look at something awful and be glad it's not us. Yes. Right? Yeah. And just be glad it isn't us. And we all walk out going, yeah, that scared the shit out of me too. And horror is personal. What scares you or any of you watching and listening right now doesn't necessarily scare me or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Horror is personal. You have people that have gone through things in their lives that, for example, some people find The Exorcist extremely funny. They don't have any trauma over that. There are other people that they can't bear to watch it. And I talk about that in my book, where a young lady, when I was in high school and Nightmare on Elm Street came to home video, I saw the movie in theaters to an almost empty theater. People forget that the original theatrical release of the Nightmare on Elm Street in '84 really didn't do all that hot. No, it didn't. It was home video that made it a phenomenon a year later. And we watched it we had some pot and beer and watching this thing at my house on VHS. And this one girl in our group, man, she was shaking. Like at first I thought it was a little, drama, like, oh, everybody pay attention to me. I'm so scared. No, she was really scared. Yeah. And in the end, when I finally had to take her home, like she didn't want to drive. And I took her home and I sat up with her for a while. And here she came from a town where somewhere in the town, one or two kids vanished. And she was little at that time. And they found the kids dead. And, I think they got the guy or whoever did it. But that made an impression upon her. And she said it wasn't the knives for fingers. It wasn't the blood coming out of bed. I remember her saying to me, every town has a guy like that. Yes. That's what scared her. That made it personal to her. Yeah, and I agree with that. And horror it does give everybody a different type of feeling, right? What one person is scared of, the next person isn't going to be afraid of. I completely agree. Like Jaws scares the shit out of me. I have a big fear of open water. And when I first saw Jaws, I was a little girl. It intensified my fear of open water. And I can't watch that movie as an adult either because it brings me extreme anxiety and fear. I always try to watch it every 10, 12 years to see if I can endure it. And I just can't endure it. And a lot of people laugh at it. I'm like, oh, Jaws, that's not a horror movie. To me, Jaws is a friggin' horror movie. Well, I think One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a horror movie. Yeah. Yeah. I really do. I mean, Nurse Ratched is a monster. She is a monster. She is a monster. And what happens to Jack Nicholson in the end and Billy Bibbit, that's horrific. That is horror, in my opinion, because there are real Nurse Ratcheds out there. The monstrousness, or the I guess it is the monstrosity of Nurse Ratched is she thought she was doing the right thing. And that's the problem. She wasn't doing what she did to be evil. She thought what she was doing was proper and just. Yes. That's terrifying. And that is scary because you have people that a few of the killer nurses
They honestly thought that they were murdering in the name of good. Like they were
Yes.
putting these people to sleep, even though they weren't ready to die yet. She
Correct.
was coming in and taking away their pain. They honestly thought and believed that they were taking away that person's pain, so they were doing a good thing. It's like,
I
wow.
agree.
Yeah, that's definitely a horror. I do have a couple of questions from some of the people. Some of them actually,
Please.
we were watching a movie together. We were watching Death House and we watched Camp Dread together. Deadwalk wanted to know: does the name Novak have some significance to you? Because it was used in a couple of your films.
I'm really glad somebody noticed that. Yeah. Novak is to kind of link the two films together in the same universe. That's what I was trying to do.
That's
So
what we were thinking.
Novak played in Camp Dread by
Yeah.
Joe Raffa, is the brother of Cody Longo in Death House.
Oh wow, there you go. Connecting the two.
And if you watch the special, there is a
I'm going
doctor
to.
on television, and his name is Dr. Novak.
That's awesome. I actually found the special, so it's on my list, and so is the Fields. Like when I was, like I said, when I was going through research, I was reading the IMDb, and I'm just like, the Fields. What is this? So I have that one and the special was just recently released in 2020.
That is correct. Yep.
How was it working during? Well, I'm sure you're working now during the pandemic, but that was like during like the meat and the potatoes of the pandemic. How was it doing that?
Well, actually, Scary Things was more working in the meat of the pandemic. The
Okay.
special was wrapped just before.
Just before.
Because
Okay.
I'll give you an example. The special got accepted to San Francisco Sci-Fi Fest, Indie Fest out there. And I flew to San Francisco. And that was in January
Mm-hmm.
of 2019. Wait, 2020. It was
Mm-hmm.
January 2020. And I arrived at San Francisco International. When I got off the plane, I had to go near where the international arrivals were. And they had that place battened down. They had these huge tarps up and people in biohazard suits. And I text back home to a couple people. I'm like, there's some fucking shit going down here, man. This is not good. And
Yeah.
I was concerned even at that point. There was something more going on than what they were telling us. And look, that's how horror movies start. So
Yeah, especially zombie films and like, 28 days later and
yeah.
they start out with something
So
crazy.
for me, the special kind of landed at the time that the pandemic erupted. Shooting Scary Things during the pandemic was more of the challenge. We
Right.
had to keep masks on. We had to keep the face shields on. We had to keep social distancing. Fortunately, most of where the Scary Things are was shot outside.
Oh,
And the weather cooperated that we could really honor that. So, I mean, nobody got infected. The crew all stayed healthy. The cast all stayed healthy. There were no infections, and we pulled it off. But it wasn't easy.
oh no, I bet
You
it
know,
was not. How do you do a film when you have to wear masks, right? That's the last thing you want
right?
is the masks in the actual film itself because now you're totally covering the person's mouth and it just
Oh yeah. You can't have the masks in it, but then you
no.
also have to worry about if they're standing around and it's hot and they're sweaty, then they get the
Yep,
red mask line, right? And then you got to get makeup in there to cover all that, or let you know, the reaction to the mask calm down a little, let the skin
definitely.
cool down. So there was always that as well too. You had to be careful of mask shadow, 5 o'clock mask shadow.
Yeah, yeah, and it's crazy. I was watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they did a few episodes where they were in masks, like their masks were on their face. And I don't know if you've ever seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I have not,
It's
no.
a cop comedy. More it's all very comedy. And in the newer season was done during the pandemic, and yeah, they were actually wearing masks. The whole cast was wearing masks on the
Yeah.
show. It kind of put too much reality into a comedy for me. I like watching shows because it's not in reality. I don't like watching the news because yes, real life is a horror story, but I like to just lose myself in my shows, and seeing The Mask there kind of brought reality right smack in the middle of my non-reality moments.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the stars of Scary Things, one of the kids, she went back to college that fall, and she let us know, like, oh, I'm going to be in this play. And she sent a link, and we were able to watch it via webcam. There was
Right.
nobody in the audience. And they all had to wear masks on the stage. And it's like, it just took you right out of the play.
It did. It takes you out of the moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. Can you tell us more about Nighttime World, that vampire series you were just earlier in this talking about?
Yeah, it's an anthology. I was approached to kind of come on board and kind of straighten the film out a little bit. It hit some rough spots. So I work with Doug Henderson and Matt Neese, and together we kind of came together to kind of fix the narrative a little bit. And we reached out. This was what I love, reaching back to the horror community. And so I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk.
Right.
And I approached several filmmakers that had some really cool vampire themed short films. They had won some awards and some festivals, but they were high quality, really well done. And I thought, Lionsgate needs this quickly. We don't really have time to shoot something on our own, especially 4 or 5 stories, right?
Yeah.
So we got the wraparound story to work around these short films that all have a very similar vampiric theme, and gave some filmmakers a break. Like, they're going to get their film out there now with a major label.
Right on.
And really, really happy about that. And it's good. It's a lot of fun. It's like a creep show. It's got 4 or 5 different stories, and good quality. We're real happy with it.
Oh, that's good. I'm excited. I love vampire stories. There was a Netflix series called Dracula, which I would have loved to see more on, and it was only, I think, 3 episodes, about an hour each.
I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like those. I like bringing back the monsters that we started with in horror. We didn't start off with slashers, right? We started off with The Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein's monster, Dracula.
We started off with the classic monsters. That is correct.
The Mummy. And we're slowly have lost a lot of that. And it's nice to see more vampire stuff and werewolves. So on Vampire Werewolf, if you had a choice, which one would you be, vampire or a werewolf? Or a hybrid of a little bit of both?
No, I don't want to be a hybrid. Here's the problem. The problem with the vampire thing is, if I could be maybe a Dexter and just kill the assholes, that would be okay.
Okay, like Blade, almost like Blade.
Yeah, like Blade. I don't want to hurt the nice people. The problem with all of it is the eternal life thing, because there is no such thing. Eventually, the sun's going to explode and burn out. So even if I live to be another 4 billion years, you're eventually meeting your maker, no matter what. And the older that you get, there's just more chance someone's going to figure out who you are. So, but then the whole werewolf thing, man, it looks pretty painful when you got to turn into that thing. I don't know.
It does look very painful.
And you got to really, both of them have a time scheduling problem. You definitely have to live within the parameters of certain times. Like, you got to live by the cycle of the moon for a werewolf. And of course, being a vampire, you're beholden to, the nighttime world.
Yeah.
So
it would suck either way.
I guess I'd probably rather be the vampire. I think being the werewolf is too base and too painful.
Yeah, and for me, I like the werewolf side of things. I know the transformation would be super painful, because it would be extreme distress. And if you ever see the transformations, and a lot of the times in werewolf films, we don't see the transformation, unlike American Werewolf in London and then The Howling and other films. But for the most part, you don't really see how painful that transformation is. But at least I wouldn't have to kill people to survive. I'd be able to eat regular meat. I can go grab myself a cow.
That you can do.
Right?
Yes.
Vampire, yeah, I think vampire, you would have to survive on blood and you would have to find it either humane way, but then do you lose your humanity when you turn into that? And Blade was a very special lore, right? Where the majority of vampires, they're not, you lose your humanity. With
Yeah.
werewolf, I would think you would still have some of your humanity because you technically are. It's that your body transforms into a beast. Hmm. That's a lot to think about when you do vampire versus werewolf.
You gotta consider all the aspects of it.
Oh, definitely, you have to. And I find that a lot of the films they don't show the painful transformation. They just show it just turn right into a wolf, or you see a very
Right.
short blip of it. Where American Werewolf in London really brought to your eyes the full body transformation and how painful that actually looked.
If I could be a vampire like the jackasses on What We Do in the Shadows,
Oh
that
my
might be
god, I
pretty.
love those guys.
I love them. Uh,
They are so
Jackie
great.
Daytona.
Yes. Yeah. I love their movie. I love their TV series.
All of it.
I
You know,
can't.
and I really didn't think when I heard they were making a series, I'm like, it's just going to ruin that movie. Holy cow, did they build on that and run with it? And I love that show. It's one of the few shows that I will alter my schedule for at 10 o'clock at night
Yep.
just to sit up and watch. I mean, I know I can record it, but I like watching it, you know?
Yep. I
And
love what we do.
I have the previous seasons on DVD and I have the movie. But what wonderful writing and performances from all of them.
Oh
It's
yes.
just, there's always a surprise every week.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I really enjoy what they did to it, and I was the same way. I thought, oh crap, they're coming out with a series, they're gonna kill it. But they were able to keep that what we do in the shadows has. There's not really a spinoff, but there's another show called Parenting Wellington Paranormal, and it has some of the guys from What We Do in the Shadows involved with it. Basically, it's a police force that has a secret society, like a secret little group inside of them that deals with the paranormal side of things. And we see one of the vampires. Was it Vampire Tony? From the TV show. No, from the movie.
Okay, yeah.
He's the younger one that they bring in. I can't remember his name, but he's in there, and then you get to see some of the other stuff thrown up in there. So if you haven't seen Wellington Paranormal, try to find it. It's funny.
I will definitely find it now.
It's a good one. Oh, and Mama Ducky has a question for you. She says, when you were an usher and you were in Friday the 13th, Part 4, did anyone start doing the infamous Crispin Glover dance?
No, I don't. If they did, I don't remember it. This was before Crispin Glover was Crispin Glover. You know, this was before Back to the Future really blew him up.
Right.
And no, I don't. I don't remember anybody doing any kind of his dance. What I do remember was the audience absolutely the screams as if they weren't loud enough went up another level when Jason fell on the machete and it went up through his eye and out the back of his head. That was I just loved standing in the back of that theater and hearing that audience shriek. I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That had to be an amazing time. At 82, I was only like 10 years old, if that. But I did see some of the other movies in the theaters, like in the 90s. I snuck into Candyman, and I remember the audience during Candyman and the experience that I felt during that one. Holy crap, that movie scared the shit out of me for months. I couldn't use a bathroom without throwing a towel over the mirror. Like I believe in that whole Bloody Mary and light as a feather crap because I did that stuff as a kid. And it scares you.
I did all that. Yeah.
Right?
We did the stiff as a board, light as a feather. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And these things scared you as a kid because they were urban legends. So you heard about Bloody Mary, or you heard something similar in your own town. And you were just like, I'm not doing that. And I did not do the Bloody Mary in the mirror because I'm too friggin' chicken. Then when I saw Candyman, it really brought it to life for me. As, 92 Candyman came out. So I had to sneak in the theaters because I wasn't 18. And yeah, the reactions in the theater that night, and then people leaving in the theaters, like how everyone's reaction was. Kind of miss those things because we don't have them anymore.
I know, and that's a shame. I think there needs to be a concerted effort to kind of try to bring that back.
I think so too. I remember being a little girl and going to opening night Dark Crystal. When I went to
Oh, yeah.
see the Dark Crystal, you had people in puppet costumes in the theater. They were handing out these little books. I don't remember if it was a coloring book or a picture book from the movie, but they were handing them out in the theater. I mean, that
They
was really
did that.
cool.
I remember it wasn't horror, but it was with Dune. They actually handed out in '84 because I was an usher there. We had to hand out these. They were like glossaries of terms. So
Yeah.
that's not a really good sign, however, when you have to go into the movie and have to do your homework
Right?
before you watch this movie. Because first of all, it's dark in the theater, right? Even when the lights are on, it's dim, and you see all these
Definitely.
people like, and there were no cell phones with flashlights. And you see people like, I can't read this. What is this? And it had these terms in the language that the characters are speaking in the film to make you follow along better. Not an auspicious sign for an opening weekend, but
No, but taking that home with you is a piece of movie
yes,
memorabilia that you don't get nowadays. Like with the
you
puke
don't get
bags
it.
with The Exorcist. Back in the early 70s when The Exorcist came out, to hype that up even
Yep,
more, the movie theaters literally hand out barf bags.
yep,
And you don't get that anymore. That's a piece of like movie memorabilia that none of that gets done nowadays. Even if you go back to early 2000s, before pandemic time, none of this stuff gets done anymore. And it's quite a shame because these are things that you remember as you get older, and things that you could keep that brings back the nostalgia, those great memories that we once had. Yeah, it's crazy how it seems like so long ago.
it does.
Yeah, it definitely does. Can you tell us more about your podcast? I know I listened to your podcast. I found out that before I had you on the show, when you did the tweet about the podcast episode that you were doing with Halloween Kills. I listened to that one. Let us know more about your podcast.
Sure. It was inspired by Jaws the Revenge. um, and the reason why is I consider Jaws the Revenge to be the worst motion picture ever made because it's not a motion picture. It was a tax write off and a piece of product that was created really to give some actors and the studio heads and the people that were involved a vacation for 3 months out of Los Angeles during the holidays. It's not a movie. It's just really, and the reason why I say this is cinema is a combination of cynicism and cinema, like going to the cinema. And my argument is that Jaws the Revenge did not have, did not have to be bad. It was deliberately made bad because nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. They had
Yeah.
$28 million to spend. You know what it was like? It's like that episode in The Office when Michael has to decide whether to get a new copier or chairs.
Yes.
That's what it was with Jaws the Revenge. Some accountants found we have $28 million. What do we do? And Sid Sheinberg's like, well, I'm on my way out. My wife could use a paycheck, so we'll bring her back as Mrs. Brody. I get a paycheck. Most people don't realize Sid Sheinberg wrote the original story, but he doesn't get any screen credit because you don't want screen credit for that. They stuck that on Michael de Guzman to do that. And the reason why is they just found a way to fleece 28 million, right? Like that's what they did. They just spent it on this movie, gave each other paychecks, throw in Michael Caine, right? Michael Caine summed it up best. And there are always variations of this quote, so I'm paraphrasing. But Michael Caine said, I have not seen Jaws the Revenge. And from what I understand, it's a terrible film, but the house it built is terrific. And there you go, right?
Yeah.
And he said, I think in his autobiography, he said something about it that like, hey, I got to go to the Bahamas. I made a lot of money, not bad for a bomb movie, right? So there's a lot of cynicism there. And that's my problem. Like I remember reading a while ago that Tom Green, when he made Freddy Got Fingered, he deliberately made it bad because he felt if a studio was dumb enough to give him, I think it was like 12 million, that number may be different, doesn't matter. It's a lot of money.
Right.
And he felt that if somebody was dumb enough to give him that kind of money, well, then he's just going to go off and make some shit. And it's like, why would you do that? That's like a really cynical dick move,
Yeah.
right? Like, there are independent filmmakers out there that would kill for $1 million, and you're getting 12. And I've said this about, and I don't know, maybe somebody listening can clarify. The rumor, the urban legend is that Adam Sandler made Hubie Halloween to say, like, give a middle finger to fans out there, because if Uncut Gems did not get him an Oscar nomination of whether a Best Picture or Best Actor, he was going to make the worst movie ever. And I've seen Hubie Halloween.
Yeah.
I think it's a dreadfully awful film.
I agree.
It's either deliberately bad or it's inept. And my point is, if it was done deliberately bad, that is a really cynical dick move.
I agree.
And to take that kind of money and waste it just to prove a point, to give the middle finger to fans or whomever. And I'm not saying that Sandler did this. I'm saying that's the urban legend. It's a shame, and it's not right. And that's what my podcast is about. It's not movie reviews.
Right.
It's not about saying this is great, this is bad. It's about looking at things which can be of all aspects of entertainment. My recent one was on the handling of the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie case. Looking at it from this was a cynical ploy by the media, is really what it was. This was 100% exploitation. There was nothing about justice for this girl. There was no social crusading going on here. This was a showboating venture. And most of all, I had said it in the podcast about even John Walsh, who succumbed to the trash TV level, where Walsh has always been an icon of kind of like justice, right? For what he went through with his son.
For sure.
To come out in this kind of current affair, kind of low-level Jerry Springer kind of thing, was a very cynical ploy and a very cynical move. Dog the Bounty Hunter getting involved. All that was a cynical ploy to springboard he was trying to sell a new TV show.
Yep.
In the meantime, you have two families. And again, your emotions don't matter in this. You have two families whose children are involved in something awful. One is dead. Now both are dead. And what the family of Gabby Petito are never going to get answers the way that they could have, because the boy is dead. Now, I made the comment about the cynicism because, at one point, John Walsh went on an interview and said, to this kid, if you're watching, off yourself. You shouldn't be doing that.
No.
That is irresponsible behavior.
Yeah.
What if I had access to a TV media bully pulpit and there was a hostage situation, and the person holding people hostage has 12 people hostage, and I tell the hostage taker, just kill yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do this. You're a coward. You had to take people hostage, kill yourself. Well, what if that hostage taker turns around and shoots all 12 people and then kills himself? Don't you think there would be social outrage against me for saying something so irresponsible as that? And yet nobody's saying anything about this. I don't know if John Walsh's words had any impact on Brian Laundrie or not. I do not know that. He could have been dead by the time Walsh said that. We don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the forensic evidence, at least from what I know, has come back that the death time is almost indeterminable at this point. I probably know a little too much about this than I should, because of all the things that are happening in the world. The nation came to focus on this, and that's cynical. And in addition to that, my podcast is about the ability to really try to expect better from your entertainment and not just accept whatever's thrown at you. Because once movies and entertainment start to become content, which we keep hearing this word used more and more, we're losing the experience we've been talking about on this interview.
Yep.
We're losing the interaction. We're losing the ability to share memories and experiences that bring us together.
Mm-hmm.
When you start looking at things as content, it's breaking us apart, because now we're like a la carte. We're at a buffet. I want that, and I want that, but I don't want that. Instead of sitting down in fellowship with people around a table and enjoying a meal and talking to each other and exchanging ideas and opinions in a civil manner, we're not doing that. Now it's all about me. I want this and I want that, and I don't care what you want, and this is the last of that. I'm taking that.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone from the big family table to the buffet. That's what we've done. And when we start calling our entertainment content, we've lost what binds us together in that social fabric.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I do Coffee Chat of Horrors. This show started out as doing autopsies on movies, going behind the scenes, getting interviews on how people created the film, special effects, sounds, lighting, all of that stuff. And Coffee Chat of Horrors is still like that. I just bring on guests in the independent film or non-independent film industry to talk about horror and their experiences and their projects to give more light to it. Coffee Chat brings a lot of people together that aren't just horror fans, but non-horror fans. And we sit and we discuss horror movies. We go on the ins and outs of the horror, where we find out, what was it like making, let's say, the movie Blade. I'd find interviews and with, what's his name? Denzel, no. I can't think of his name. Wesley Snipes. That's it. Wesley Snipes. And I would look at interviews with him, look at interviews with the director and the cast at the time, and pull those things together. And we would sit in here and chat about them, bring up pictures, talk about their experiences, like within that, just to bring everyone together and chit chat about it.
See, what you're saying right there is really important, what you're doing, because when you start looking at things as content, you're not understanding all the hard work that goes into something. Look, as much as I rag on Jaws the Revenge, there were people that put some hard work into it. They did their jobs. The crew showed up. They gaffed. They lit. They did everything that they needed to. And people don't understand that. People just think you go out and you make a movie. Like, that's the one thing I constantly complain about, even as a writer. People just think you sit down and you write. You don't. You need to be in a mood. You need to put on music. You need to be in that frame of mind, and you can't be interrupted. You can't have people running into your office. You can't have people knocking on your door. You can't be running to do this and, oh, now I've got the lawn to mow. Now I've got to do this. And look, life gets in the way. I get it. But it's no different than anybody going to the office. Do I go to your office and knock on your cubicle or your office door and say, hey, the dog is sick. Can you come and take the dog to the vet? Do I do that?
No.
So, like, when you're writing, people just think, oh, okay, he's writing, and people don't understand that you're filling out dialogue in people's mouths and you're trying to make them speak properly. And that's just on the page. Then you've got to get it to film. You've got to find somebody that either is going to put the money into your movie, or you're going to find somebody at a studio that's going to finance it and also allow you to make the movie that you want, without being worried about, will this offend somebody, and will the woke culture come down on this,
right,
or will we offend some conservative group? When you start hearing that movies are being made by algorithm, now we've got a real problem here, because why we make movies is an expression of ourselves. And when a computer is now going to start writing them and filming them and creating them and editing them, then we've got pure 100% content.
Yeah.
There is a big difference between a block of nutritious tofu and a turkey dinner or something well prepared.
Yes.
Right? It'll still give you the nutritional value and all the things that you want, but it tastes like nothing. And that's where we're becoming with content. Okay, so the new Halloween, you said 2018, you didn't care for it. It's slick, it's beautiful, it has all the right things going for it, but yet there were some going, it doesn't have what the original had. It doesn't have the feel. It doesn't have the, that's important. That is so important. And so in cinema, my podcast, that's what I talk about. I talk about, for example, when people say, oh, the special effects in whatever movie are dated. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Nothing is truly dated if you're immersed in a great story.
Yeah.
Okay. So the original 1933 King Kong, yes, it's stop motion.
Yes.
Yes, we can see some of the defects, but it's not about that. It's
No.
about the brilliant story. The shark in Jaws is not realistic. And it wasn't even all that realistic in 1975.
Right.
However, I want to see that mechanical beast over than Spielberg issuing a 50-year anniversary DVD with a CGI shark replacing that one, because somebody took the time. Roy Arbogast and Bob Matty came out of retirement and they worked on that, and that is art. They created that shark and they invented that technology at a time that that technology did not exist. You can't just summarily erase that art. I mean, you can. Look, we can go back and digitally touch up the Mona Lisa if we want to make her look more real, right? We can do that. We can turn it into a photograph. That's not what it's about.
Nope.
Starry Night. We can make Starry Night look real. Why do we want to do that? And that's what I'm saying. Film has to be looked more upon as art than it does content. And as you know, we wind this down here, I think that's the message I want to come out to your viewers and listeners, that love what you watch and love what you do. And I think we don't have enough passion even in our own lives. We've just become, we got to get through to the next thing. We got to get through to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we remake this and we're going to remake that. You're not getting it. And that's what my book also covers, that things like Friday the 13th, the reason why the remakes stumbled in 2008, 2009. And the reason why it stumbled is because the time that the original Friday the 13th came out historically is very different in 2008, 2009. In 1980, you did not have AIDS. The number one thing to destroy Friday the 13th was the advent of AIDS. And also the advent of technology, where kids now look at a summer camp and go, people went there? That's stupid. Why would anybody do that? Kids now are all, right? It's this.
Oh, yes, I completely agree. There's no more summer camp.
So, and some kids, technology has also supplanted sex. They get their sex from sexting online and watching porn. Nobody's hooking up.
No.
Right? I mean, so that whole have sex and die thing motif that powered the slasher is not here anymore. And in the 80s, you had a very conservative president come into office, but yet the 80s were very liberal with the party atmosphere. You had this very weird influx of conservative and liberal that doesn't exist today.
No, you are so right.
Friday the 13th, you can't take it out of its time and put it in this one and expect it to have the same impact that it did in 1980.
Completely agree.
And so therefore, it becomes content. It does not become culture, which the original 1980 was. So you have a big difference between your culture and your content. I know I'm rambling.
Oh, no, you definitely do. Definitely do. You definitely have it. 2009 is when the remake of Friday the 13th came out. And you can't bring that 80s atmosphere or aspect into the 2009. Completely different era, right?
I saw the 2009 in a packed house. Nobody yelled. Nobody screamed. Nobody cheered. And when you walk out there, you heard a lot of, that was all right. That was okay. That wasn't bad. I like this. That's it. I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. It was well made. You didn't have to like it. See, that's the other thing. We also label everything as sucks, right? The prequels to Star Wars sucked. No, they didn't. You mean to tell me John Williams sucked, really, a score? You mean to tell me those incredible visual effects sucked? No. You may not have liked them, and yes, for me, they fell way short of anything, but they don't suck.
No.
The 2009 Friday the 13th remake does not suck. It's well made. It's well shot. It's well lit. It's well edited. The effects are good. That's a different thing. Jaws the Revenge sucks because it's not a movie.
Right.
So in my opinion, you can't transplant a topic, a subject, and move it into a different era because it's not going to work. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. What scares kids now? It's not the weird man in the neighborhood. We now have become a society. Nightmare on Elm Street was released before Columbine.
Yes.
The monsters are now us and our kids,
Yeah.
right? Suddenly Freddy Krueger just isn't all that scary. And to back up my point, like I said, as this all comes to an end, we'll tie it all back together. In the 1930s and 40s, before World War II, before we got involved in World War II, we didn't become involved in World War II officially until 1941. However, before the rise of Hitler and all of that, the monsters such as Dracula, Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster and the werewolf and the mummy, they were scary. However, you go into World War II, we send our kids off to die. Out of World War II comes the Holocaust and the atomic bomb. Suddenly these monsters just aren't that scary anymore.
Yeah.
And you can't make them scary again. Every attempt to bring them back has not had the impact that the original Universal classic monsters have had.
No.
Because the time is different.
Yep.
There was the Great Depression at that time. Okay, Dracula comes out right at the time of the crash. Frankenstein, the original Frankenstein, 1931. This is a different world and a different time. The context is different. And you can't take those subjects and transplant them into another era. It doesn't work to the same effect.
No, it doesn't. I completely agree with you. The monster movies, they made me relate more to horror than anything else. Frankenstein's monster is my favorite monster because I can relate to him as a young person. Horror was not a huge thing back when I was growing up, and if you enjoyed it, usually people made fun of you, called you a geek, or whatever it may have been. I was into horror and Fangoria, and I was able to relate with Frankenstein's monster as a young person because I was that loner. I was that outsider, that kid that didn't have a lot of friends, and people looked at them differently, and I can still relate as an adult to that. And that's what made me so fall in love with horror was really seeing Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
The original Boris, right? So it's and we you can't bring that into this time now. And if you have your children watch Frankenstein's monster, it's a totally different aspect for them. For my spawns, I have them grow up on the classic horror, and then I introduce them to newer horror, like Friday the 13th, and then now newer horror. So my girls grew up on when they watched their first horror movie was Universal Monsters, Dracula. Frankenstein's monster, the mummy, Invisible Man. Mm-hmm.
Well, when you watch even in the 70s, how horror changed in the 70s, there's a paranoia aspect in the 70s. What did we have at the time? We had Watergate. We were failing in Vietnam. We had the Manson murders that capped out the 60s and moving into the 70s. We're seeing a lot of horror come through our television. We're not trusting our government. We're on the wake of the conspiracies behind JFK, RFK, and MLK. We're not trusting things. And that is the thread that moves through 70s horror. Mistrust, conspiracy, paranoia. You can't transplant that now. Now we have a different thing, right? Like even the new Godzilla movie, Godzilla versus Kong, even in that, there's conspiracy theory, right? Now we're on that stuff. So every era has a different historical context, which defines the horror or the subject matter to us. And to try to just simply think it's plug and play and take one and put it in over here, it's just going to work. It doesn't. And Hollywood just doesn't get this. They keep scratching their heads going, I don't get it. I don't know why this remake didn't work. I don't know. Because it's not relevant to the younger audience. Halloween Kills played specifically well to people 35 and up.
That it did.
Okay? That's why. That's your base. It's not the 19-year-old. It's not the 17-year-old. It's not the 12-year-old.
Oh.
It's 35 and up. And I'll even go better. It's 40 and up.
Yeah, 40 and up.
You found base. And look what they did with Halloween Kills. They plugged in every single little person they could from the original 1978 to give that fan factor, right? That fan film thing. Oh my God, look, it's that person. Oh my God, it's that. I'm trying not to spoil anything for somebody who didn't see it. But we're not really introducing anything new here.
No.
Okay, it's playing to nostalgia. It's playing to a time that is no longer around.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I thought, I didn't hate Halloween Kills. I just thought Halloween Kills was Halloween 2. that, but updated graphics and a little more of the story.
And
Literally Halloween 2.
Right, you go through all this trouble in 2018 to dispense the second one from the timeline, and then what do you do in this one? You basically remake it anyway.
Yeah, that's basically what they. Yeah, I agree with you. It's basically exactly what they did. Because when I was watching Halloween Kills, I'm like, wait, this happened in part 2. This happened. It's exactly part 2. Now we added firefighters in and a whole huge fire, but we had a fire in the beginning of part 2 as well in the hospital. And Jamie Lee did nothing in part 2. She didn't do anything in Halloween Kills. Like, it was literally a carbon copy of part 2. It's thrown in some new stuff.
It's no different when J.J. Abrams went through the incredible trouble to do the hat trick on Star Trek to give us the parallel universe, the Kelvin timeline, bring in Spock, merge it. He did an incredible trick.
Yeah.
He made it a sequel, yet a reboot. It was really an amazing thing where now you can go back and look at all the old stories and give a fresh new take and go off in different adventures. So what do they do with Into Darkness? You fucking remake The Wrath of Khan. Come on. Come on. That's what you do. You remake, and not only do you remake The Wrath of Khan, you remake the most popular Star Trek of them all. Right? That's what you go with. You went through all the trouble in the 2009 film to do something entirely different and inventive and fresh, and you turn right around and just did a remake of The Wrath of Khan. I remember one guy sitting behind me in the theater when they revealed that Benedict Cumberbatch, of all people, is Khan. And the guy got up and he goes, I'm not done with this fucking shit. And he walked out. He walked right out of the theater.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
But yes, I there's been a few movies that do that, and then now, like I said, I didn't hate Halloween Kills. I am looking forward to the third one when Halloween ends. I don't know how you're gonna end Halloween because Michael is Halloween unless you're gonna kill him off.
It won't end.
No, it's gonna never end. But
it won't end.
I gave Halloween Kills a 6 out of 5 in my opinion. There's things that could have been more. I thought it was very well made. I love the effects that they had in that film. I thought it was really great.
Yeah.
I know, Blue, you like Star Trek and horror. But that's what's so awesome about having CCOH and having guests on the show, because it's not just about horror. It's everything intercedes with everything else. So without sci-fi, we wouldn't have certain aspects of horror. Without comedy, we wouldn't have certain aspects. So it all like kind of plugs in together. Hi, Rose.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and that's what I love about doing these types of shows, because it brings people from all walks together, and we sit and we chit chat about it. We may not be in person, but we're here talking about it as a group of friends, and people asking questions about it and learning about the film. Some of the films that I bring in, I don't like. But I bring them in because they've done something to the genre, or they've brought something to the genre that wasn't already there.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and we've introduced people to some horror movies or non-horror movies that they have never seen or would have never seen before because they never heard about it.
Agreed.
Oh, I know it's getting to be about that time. Well, it's 11:31 right now. Well, for me, I know you're on the East Coast. Baywatch. Can you tell us a little bit about Baywatch?
Yeah, quickly. It was written by Doug Henderson. It's his directing debut, and Doug produced The Special, In the Nighttime World, and Where the Scary Things Are. Cinematographer is Matt Neese, a gifted DP. I can't say enough about him. Basically, a kind of throwback to Gothic horror, which is what I liked about it. It's a slow burn.
Ooh.
Great performances. Ashlyn Yenny is in it as well too. Does a wonderful job in the film. And it's in post-production right now, being edited, and should be released, hopefully. I mean, they're going to start shopping it pretty soon. I would say sometime after the holiday.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I actually wrote all those down because I'm going to keep an eye out for Where the Scary Things Are.
Oh, yeah, Where the Scary Things Are, I'm excited for.
Yeah, what you have told us about it, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And there is a book coming out. It's called This Time It's Personal. It'll be coming out towards next fall, before Halloween.
Right, along with the Halloween 3 book.
I'm excited for that as well, to see the Halloween 3 book. I really enjoyed Halloween. When I first seen it, I loved it. I wasn't worried that there was no Michael involved. I saw the movie for what it was with Halloween.
Same here.
And then later on in my life, as an adult, finding out that Carpenter wanted Halloween to be different anthologies each chapter. He didn't want Michael involved with the whole thing. He wanted each one to be different, but the producers demanded Michael because Michael did so great in 78.
That's exactly it.
Learning that as an adult, it blows my mind to see. I'm like, wow, what Halloween would have been if John Carpenter got his way with it. And that's why I don't understand why so many people hated it. Because, okay, well, yeah, Michael wasn't in it. They did get duped because it did say Halloween, Season of the Witch. But seeing that there was no Michael and seeing what the movie, what it really was about, and that's a true Halloween movie for me. It's Season of the Witch. So I'm very excited. And I love what Tommy did in 3. And he also had a huge part in 78 Halloween, right? Now, not everyone understands how big of a part Tommy and Nick Castle both had within 78.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Definitely check it out, Dahi. Definitely. I will have all the links to Harrison's information is right here. You have some of his films, his Vimeo, website, Fandom site, Twitter, and the podcast. I will also have information about the book in the description when this goes up on YouTube. If you guys want to keep an eye on it, I will be keeping an eye on it as well because I want to get that book.
Well, thank you. And most of all, thanks for having me on the show. I don't know, you're watching people talking. I hope they had a good time.
Oh, yes, they did. Are there any questions that you guys want for Harrison before we wrap this up? I know I had a lot of questions in advance because some people weren't going to be here for today's show, but they're definitely wants to see the VOD. So I made sure I got their questions beforehand. Definitely an awesome time. Yeah, I kind of figured you guys would like it. You guys were hyped during the week when we talked about it. Thank you, Dahi. Is there anybody that you want to shout out or get out there before we end?
No, I think we covered everything pretty well. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for getting the word out on my book and my podcast. And
of course,
a lot of stuff coming. So and most of all, thank you for having me on. This was great. I had a lot of fun. And I hope your audience did too as well, and at least see the passion I have for the industry.
Oh, definitely. We definitely see the passion you have for the industry, and I'm very happy you wanted to come on to the show. I think was it Adam? I think who brought us together. I think his name is Adam that brought us together. I have to go back into my DMs, but I'm very glad that he did so because it's so nice talking to people in the industry that create these things that make us fans of the genre. And to see so much passion go into it and how much you actually care about the industry itself and not just the movie.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just content.
Right, exactly. And it was really a great pleasure to sit and chit chat with you. I do hope you have the great rest of your weekend. And I would definitely love to have you back on the show later on as things start to progress. So we can talk more about especially about your book, because I'm really excited about that as well. I have a lot of books like Camp Crystal Lake Memories, which is huge. It's a giant coffee table book, but it's filled with so much information.
It does.
So again, thank you for being on the show. I will have this up on YouTube sometime this week. I have to edit a couple of things, but I will have it up on YouTube with all of the information. And if you have links later on towards like where the scary things are or even your book, let me know. Send them to me and I will make sure I re-edit all of my stuff so it can point to your book and to other stuff that's going on, because the release of Halloween 3's book as well is coming.
Oh, yeah. I'll keep you posted on all of it, and I'll let you know.
That's awesome. Thank you again. Thank you so very much for being on the show. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. We're going to get into our just chatting scene. I am not excited. No, not at all. Not at all. I don't like Fortnite. But we will be doing it. I still got to make sure with, I still have to verify with Deity on Fortnite, but no, I'm not excited. Thank you guys so very much for coming out on your Sunday morning and enjoying some coffee with us and chatting. I had a really great time. Again, B. Harrison Smith, thank you very, very much for coming on the show. If you are wanting to get any information about B. Harrison, all the information is right there. When I do pop this up on YouTube, it'll be there as well. You'll be able to catch the whole VOD on there. And just a reminder, come December, CCOH is moving to YouTube. So it will not be live on Twitch. We are moving this over to the YouTube side of things. Less issues, just less everything. Finally got to make a live coffee. Yes, a live coffee chat of horrors, Celtic. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time and trying to get here. I know Sunday mornings, it's rough. Sunday, it's early. It's family day for a lot of people. But I find this is a day where people can actually have time to come together and chit chat and talk. I'm glad you do, Batty. I'm glad you do. Thank you for being here. And CCOH interviews are ran a little bit differently than a normal CCOH. When I have CCOH, it's definitely more interactive with me, and there's lots of sounds and crap that you guys can do. In interviews, I like to focus on the guests and listen to their sides of things and get their perspective. Thank you, Petro. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate that, Dylan. Thank you, Monkey, for hanging. Exactly. I mean, the community is still 110% my main focus. You guys are my main focus. And this is why I do these types of shows and bring on guests, because it gives us a whole different perspective on everything. And we come together, like Harrison was saying about coming together. And that is what's so important about community. Even when I'm not doing CCOH and I'm playing a video game Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Twitch, it's not the game or the content that I'm creating that's the most important thing to me. It's always been the community. And if you've been with me since I started doing streaming, which was about 5 years ago, you'd know that it's all about the community for me. I don't give a crap if I have 100, 2,000 people watching my stream. It's not about that. It's about the conversations that we are having with everything going on in the world in the pandemic. It's really opened my eyes to see how disconnected we really are, but how connected we are at the same time, because we have been more disconnected as humans than we were 30 years ago. I used to hang out with my friends in the streets and come home when the lights came down. I wasn't on my cell phone. I wasn't attached to my video games like we are today. Grandpa Cyrus, thank you for the tiggle bitties. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing good. I love the interviews too. I know he apologizes talking at length on certain things, but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it as well, Dahi. I love it when people just talk and just listening to them. A lot of people will say they're just rambling, but their ramblings are knowledge, if you know what I mean. And I don't ever think someone's rambling when they're talking about something they're so passionate about. Senpai, how are you? Blue, thank you for sacrificing the soul of Grandpa Cyrus to the Horde. I appreciate that. You'd cruise around for exactly. And we are so disconnected now. And we're the most time that we are connected. But 30 years ago, we were more connected as humans. And that's what I friggin' love about doing this web show with you guys. It's not just about horror. It's about that connection that we have. Half of you guys aren't even horror lovers, but you enjoy the genre. You just enjoy the whole coming together. And that is what I love about this whole thing. I don't expect every person in here to be a horror fan. I did horror. Back of a truck riding water hose, drinking unsupervised. Exactly, Zach. Exactly. And ASC 011297, welcome to the crypt. Thank you for the follow. All of our newer friends that just stumbled upon us and you were hitting that follow button, thank you guys for following me. Thank you for intaking this content that I create and the coming together of people who enjoy chatting. You love your psychological horror, yeah. I love all horror. I enjoy all genres and subgenre. I should say all subgenres of horror, because horror has tons of them underneath. Getting on your bike, exactly. We don't have that anymore. That's why this show is my favorite. Yeah, I love my video games. Don't get me wrong, and I love streaming my video games and screaming and laughing and having a good time. But Coffee Chat of Horrors is my most favorite show that I do, because I get to really sit here and talk with you guys. Hence why I don't hush anybody up with questions. Ask those questions, get them out. I try to copy and paste them all. I want CCOH to be more than just a show. I want it to be an experience. Just like we were talking about with Harrison and movies, how movies used to be an experience and they're no longer an experience. My stream, this channel, is supposed to be an experience, not just some crazy bitch who likes horror babble about crap. It's and I'm glad you guys helped bring that together, because without you guys there would be none of this. And so it's really great to see. And we are getting to that time, so I should be doing our credits, but you are a crazy bitch. I know. But I do. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will have an edited version. It's not really going to be too edited, just the beginning part. And usually my credits are cut out and then thrown up on YouTube. But we won't have to worry about doing that anymore, because as of December 1st, CCOH will be going over to YouTube. I'm glad you love my babbling. It was really great meeting you. Can't wait to see more from you. Same here, Ash vs. Evil Bread. Same here. I do play horror games, indie horror games, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with a little bit of GTA up in that bitch. But Sundays is our web show. I'm really glad you can catch it as well. Hi. How do I say your name? Ask? How are you? And I'm glad you were able to make it, Blue. I know with your schedule, and congratulations on your promotion. It's fucking amazing. Amazing. I don't see if we can get the socials up again. I don't know. The bot's been acting quite. Oh, it's social. Sorry, Simularum. Did Blue? No, not yet. She didn't get it yet. Not yet. It's. I'm bad. It's over there. I have to send it out. I know. Blue hasn't. Kicking ass left and right. Blue is kicking ass left and right. She really is. She has been kicking ass in her industry. Seriously has. And she just recently had a promotion done. So again, if you guys are wanting to keep an eye out or want to check out our guest that we had on the show, B. Harrison Smith, all of the social media is right there. The book that is going to be coming out in the fall of 2022, both books that are coming out in the fall of 2022, this time it's personal, and then the Halloween 3 as well. That'll be somewhere in the fall of 2022. I will keep your ears updated on that stuff, because I don't just have the guest on the show and that's it, and I throw them off to the side because we had their interview. I actually continually talk to every guest that we've had on this show, from our very first guest to our current guest, B. Harrison Smith. They don't just leave. I still support them regardless, as they still go on in their career. He said a lot of insightful things, but one thing that stood out was that how shared experiences bring people together. You can have different views, opinions, likes, dislikes, but having shared experience overrides those differences and brings people together. Another reason CCOH is so great. I will have to 100% agree with you on that, Dahi. And it's true. And that did stick out with me as well, because it was able to resonate with me, because I remember those times of going into movie theaters and sitting down for coffee and just doing those things with friends and sharing that experience. Going to the movie used to be an experience. And that's the whole point with bringing to my spawn. I wanted her to see Halloween 2018 on opening night, because I wanted her to share that experience as a young adult. To feel that, because she's seen it with when we brought it to SpongeBob and all that stuff, but she was little. And that experience she may remember as she gets older, but she is going to remember her experience coming to see Halloween 2018 on opening night for the first time. That is what I want her to feel, and that's what I want her to remember, is that experience. And he said it very well. Harrison stated it very well. And if you enjoyed what he had to say on this interview, make sure you check out his podcast. I listened to his the first episode that I ever listened to was his Halloween Kills, and I thought it was great. And I have been listening to the rest of the podcast as my Spotify goes through it. But yes, we're going to get into our credit side of things and end this wonderful show.